Welcome, everyone, and good morning. I'm very excited to welcome you to our October Michigan Athena webinar, Fearless Femme. Today, we'll be talking about courage and what it means to our panelists, but how we can harness that courage to propel us to the next level as leaders. We always strive for these opportunities to be interactive and support you on your journey, so please make sure that you use the chat box and Q&A features to drop a message, questions, comments to elevate the conversation, and have your voices heard throughout the discussion. Our Michigan Athena community is such a lively group of women and men, and it's amazing what we can learn from each other when we have these opportunities together. I could go on and on about this program, but without our sponsors, we wouldn't be here making these waves and having these important conversations. Let's start by thanking our generous friends at Consumers Energy for their continued support year after year. Also, Lake Trust for their amazing support over the years in encouraging this path with Michigan Athena. Our brand new platinum sponsor this year is Philip Morris International, and we love when we can bring on new visionaries and leaders in female leadership. Also, a very special thank you to Amerisher and Hastings Insurance for their continued support over the years, and especially this year. And also a big thank you to our new sponsor, WM. And last but not least, our bronze sponsors are West Shore Bank and Mott Community College. So before we dive into courage and fearlessness, I'm excited to share a new opportunity to elevate your leadership journey. And let me begin with our network. Michigan Athena is a community of nearly 3,000 women and men across our state. We've grown by 248% in the last 2 years, and that is in large part due to you and your networks. But ask yourself, why are you here today? What inspired you to come? Our topic on courage, resources, our lively chat box, engaging speakers. Are you craving something that you just can't put your finger on? Well, us too, all of it. So we've done some soul searching over the last few months and trying to find out why y'all like us so much, and also what it means and how we can serve you better. Because when we can pull an 800 plus webinar together and sell out a leadership event 2 months in advance, which is what we did this year, we know we have your attention and we're doing something right. So we've collectively put our heads together and realized there's so much more potential here for you and for our community. There are resources that we can share with you, conversations we want to have, networking and mentoring we want to provide, and most importantly, that feeling that we aren't alone and we're all rowing in the same direction. So let's do this together and let's help you get where you want to be, personally, professionally, both. As a statewide business foundation, the Michigan Chamber Foundation has the reach and ability to curate the connections and deliver the information you're looking for on your journey. But best yet, you're invited today as a founding member to sign up for our exclusive membership and get in on the ground level. We want our community to shape what that looks like, and we've spent the last few years listening to you. We want to keep listening. You've given us so many good ideas, so much feedback, and the best kind of support throughout our journey in building these opportunities for you. I hope you know that this is about you and it is 100% for you. So on the screen prior, there were a few experiences and opportunities we're planning for you. As we continue to build this for you, we're excited to roll these pieces out this month. Our Amplified Networking event at Lake Trust took place last week, and we had over 60 men and women talking about mental health and how to improve their personal well-being through a variety of techniques. Our webinar today on Fearless Femme includes an additional toolkit to offer you enhanced growth opportunities as a reflective way to keep your momentum going after our conversation today is over. We will also be launching our book club in November with Worthy by Jamie Kern-Lima. You'll have immediate access to our directory and begin connecting right away. And our online community is launching today, so keep an eye out, current members. There will be an email in your inbox this afternoon. All members not only have access to these enhanced benefits, but they will also have a Michigan Athena journal to begin your journey and take notes, learn, revisit those notes, and takeaways from your experiences. Our advisory council, Sherry Jones, chair. You all know Sherry. She's truly one of the most amazing people that anyone has ever met. Had some powerful things to say when we were developing the membership. She said, if you're attending events, if you're taking notes and getting inspired, what does it matter if you don't take time for yourself to sit and reread and revisit those notes? And I'm sure she said it better than that, but I'm paraphrasing, and I think you get the idea. We need to take time for ourselves to actually dig deep and learn what these experiences we're having together. So we're encouraging you to write it down, and we'll talk about how to engage in all of that introspection later. So as a founding member of Michigan Athena membership, you're able to join us with a $50 savings today. Our full membership will cost $199 at the beginning of next year, but today and through the end of our calendar year, we're offering this to you and our existing community for $149. There's a QR code on your screen here, and if you sign up today while we're here, we'll send you our toolkit while you're on the webinar so that you can follow along with us. Let's elevate your Michigan Athena experience and take your personal and professional growth to the next level. And as a last minute twist today, I know that we already have a few leaders signed up today, so shout out to Jennifer and Deborah for joining our community. But we actually have a few of these cute little Michigan Athena tumblers available today as well. We have 5 extra. And if you join today, you'll be eligible to receive a free tumbler along with your membership. We will randomly select our tumbler recipients after our event and announce them in our online community. I truly look forward to growing our community even further with you and your support today. Okay, so let's get to this panel. This is going to be a great conversation with amazing leaders, so let's be bold and ask questions with intention today. To make a few remarks, please help me welcome Brandolyn Winchester Middlebrook, EVP, Chief People and Purpose Officer with Lake Trust, as one of our amazing presenting sponsors. She's dedicated to Michigan Athena, and she's also a Michigan Athena member. She's an absolute professional, and we're excited to have her here today with us. So with that, I'll let her take it from here.
Thank you, Becky. We are grateful to be a presenting co-sponsor of the Michigan Athena series. Today's event, Fearless Femme, Unleashing Courage in Women Leaders, has a powerful connection to women leading with boldness, resilience, empathy, and authenticity. At Lake Trust, our vision is a world in which everyone thrives. We believe that women who are empowered to embrace their courage can have a ripple effect and multiply positive change, create innovation, enhance performance, and build up others in our business and our communities. Our commitment to fostering an environment where everyone thrives is at the core of our mission. Through our initiatives, we strive to uplift Michigan-owned businesses and leaders with a focus that includes women and minority-owned businesses. We recognize the immense talent, innovation, and passion that can be brought to life when we are supporting spaces that enhance the leadership potential of all. A thriving business ecosystem is one where diversity of thought, courageous leadership is not only encouraged, but championed. We are reminded that fearlessness is not the absence of fear, but the determination to push forward despite it. We stand with every woman unleashing her courage. Today, we can create a world where courage and collaboration fuel success for all. I'd like to introduce to you our co-sponsor in a co-partner in sponsorship today, Kathy Wilson, Executive Director of Corporate Giving at Consumers Energy.
Good morning. Thank you. At Consumers Energy, we're dedicated to ensuring that Michigan businesses and communities are prosperous, and that includes creating equitable pathways for all women to contribute our ideas and solutions to continue Michigan's growth and success. We have a longstanding partnership with the Michigan Chamber and Michigan Athena, which is rooted in our shared commitment to fostering environments where women can lead with confidence and courage. We recognize that true leadership comes from embracing one's authentic self and breaking through barriers that have historically held women back. I had the pleasure of participating at the Michigan Athena Summit last month, and my bucket continues to be overflowing from the connections, the encouragement, and the realization that I share experiences with many others. Together, we can empower one another. And likewise, I'm really confident and excited that we're going to be inspired by the stories of resilience and strength by our panel today. With that, it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator for today, Carrie Smith. Carrie is the Vice President and Human Resources Officer at West Shore Bank in Traverse City. In her role, she provides valuable support and guidance to both leaders and team members, helping them navigate workplace challenges, find effective solutions, and remove barriers to successful job performance. She's known for being able to tackle very complex issues with professionalism and care. With more than 22 years of human resource experience, mostly in the banking world, her favorite part of working in HR is the amazing people that she gets to work with, making decisions that reflect putting people first, and helping them become their best selves through coaching and development. She also loves that every day is a new challenge and new way to help in the HR world. She's a longstanding member of the Traverse City Area Human Resources Association and the Michigan Council for the Society of Human Resource Management. We are incredibly fortunate to have Carrie with us today to lead our discussion. So please join me in welcoming Carrie Smith.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm very excited to be here today. We have an amazing panel that's going to help us unleash courage in women leaders. The amazing panel is about to introduce will help us learn why courage is the driving force behind breaking barriers, overcoming obstacles, and achieving extraordinary feats. I'm very excited to introduce Shaquilla Myers. Shaquilla is a chief of staff to Speaker Joe Tate. He's the first Black Speaker of the Michigan House. Her current role is the latest in a 20-year career of public service that includes serving as senior advisor to Gretchen Whitmer and chief to staff Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist II. Shaquilla, we're very happy to have you here today. Next is Katie Carey. Katie is a key leader at Consumer Energy since March of 2017, managing earned media and external communications for Michigan's largest utility. She specializes in media relations, strategic communications, executive medium prep, and crisis management, working closely with CEO Garland Gilchrist. With a strong background in public relations, she previously served as communication director and press secretary in Michigan state government, including roles with the House, Senate, governor, and lieutenant governor's offices. Welcome, Katie. Next is Tyler Thiel. Tyler is Anderson Economic Group's Chief Operating Officer. She also serves as Director of AEG's Public Policy and Economic Analysis Practice Area, an expert in economic impact and benchmarking analysis. Ms. Thiel has directed projects for universities, U.S. states, trade associations, and companies in automotive, real estate, housing, alcoholic beverage, and other industries. Prior to joining AEG, she worked in the Executive Office of Michigan Attorney General. She has also worked in the political fundraising and for the Michigan Senate. Welcome, Tyler. You guys have amazing criteria that we're going to go over today, all with a little touch of politics. So I bet this is going to be interesting today to see what you have to say. I'm going to start with courage. We all know courage is the ability to do something that might frighten you, right? So I would love to start with Shaquilla. Can you tell us, what does courage mean to you? And can you share maybe a pivotal moment where courage played a key role in overcoming a significant challenge in your life?
Absolutely. Thank you, Carrie, for that wonderful introduction. And thank you to Athena for inviting us today. Courage to me means doing it anyway, doing it whether you're afraid, and just powering through. That doesn't mean that you don't stay afraid. It doesn't mean that you won't cry, but you do it anyway. Thinking about times of courage, I gotta say that there were many challenges that I thought of, but I think the best example is taking this job as chief of staff to the Speaker of the House. Democrats have not had a trifecta in Michigan in 40 years. And to be chief of staff in a majority out of all of my members, all of my staff, I have two people that have worked in the majority before this. And neither of them in leadership, at a time when there are no people that had done this job in recent memory. It was scary. I actually turned the job down a few times. I had multiple people come out of the woodworks and give me pep talks and tell me that you're ready for this. You would be great at this. And I did it anyway. I took the job. I'd been chief to the lieutenant governor, but I was chief to three people, right? Like, I took on this role and I'm chief of staff. I run the House of the Representatives, and there's over 500 staff. It's a $30+ million budget. There's a police force. There are all these things that you anticipate and don't anticipate. And I have done it scared for almost 2 years. So that was, to me, that was the most courageous. That was a step where it took courage and it took planning. And again, there weren't many people. There is no one in modern history. Well, there is not. In the age of term limits, I have the rare chance that the speaker can be speaker for multiple terms. And in the last 20 years, most speakers have only been speaker for 1 term. So there's also that added, again, it is with a 1-seat majority, there are so many challenges, but I just, I took it, I did it afraid, and I continue to, meet the challenge and be afraid. That doesn't go away really.
Tyler, you have a courage story you'd like to share?
Thank you so much, Carrie. Thank you for having me. I'm grateful to be here and also to learn from the other panelists. I definitely would echo some of the things Shaquila just mentioned, but I think for me, many small moments in my career where I had to do it anyway, really culminated to make me feel more courageous, about 20 some years in. I started out my career in political fundraising. And so, my second role that I took there, it was similar to Shaquila. I really had to be talked into it. In politics, they tend to do that too, right? If somebody finds you're right for a role, they're going to bring you into it. And so in fundraising, I had to ask people for their hard-earned dollars on behalf of my candidate. That's a big ask, especially, sometimes I probably seemed very, very young and naive to folks that I was fundraising to. And so I had to stick to the ethics of why I was asking and why I was doing it and remove personal emotions. So I think I became desensitized and had to force myself to have that ability to just be courageous really early on in my career. I think also when I was really young, a couple of times I had to let people go that were much more senior and much more experienced than me. But again, I had to stick to the ethics of why they couldn't be on the team anymore and set aside personal emotions. You can do it too if you're faced with an issue like that. But I think the most important moments of courage that are consistent throughout my career might be related to my inner dialogue. When I was a student or a very young professional, I guess I've just been really blessed. My inner dialogue, for all the moments it's negative, has also been very positive. I've had this kind of voice in my head saying, you will get it all done, you can accomplish it, you can power through, you'll get through the to-do list. I'm kind of on the other end now where sometimes I have to say no to things, do less. But if you don't have that inner dialogue, I'd like to encourage you to try to build it up, and I'll try to answer questions as we go on today as to how you can build it up. I think I was also fortunate to have, 2 grandmothers and a mother who were kind of badass women and really insisted that I do a certain set of things in my education and in my career, and were always just telling me I could. So if you don't have those women, again, I hope you can find them through Athena or through myself and the other panelists. I think that part is really important as well.
Katie, what would you like to share with us? Is there any pivotal moments you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, actually, I would. And thank you so much for having me here today. For me, courage means using my voice. And as somebody who works in public relations and communications, that comes really easy for me, frankly, to stand up in a meeting or to present the other side of an issue. However, what I've quickly noticed in my career is elevating voices of others where that might not come naturally. And a pivotal moment for me actually was in 2019. We had the largest emergency in our company's history. We had a situation where we had extremely cold temps and we had lost our largest compressor station that had provided heat for the majority of our customers. So we were heading into a live streamed press conference across the entire state, asking customers to turn down their thermostats so that we could have enough in reserves to serve everybody. And so I was standing off to the side with our CEO and our COO to prep them heading into this press conference. And it was myself and another female at the company who manages all of the gas side of our business. And our CEO wanted to go right on out there and tell everybody that they could turn their thermostats back up, that we were out of the woods on this particular emergency. And it was 11 a.m. We were not quite out of the woods yet. And I could hear my colleague, I could hear her voice not getting heard. And so what I did is I tried to elevate that. I tried to really point out what she was saying, repeat what she was saying, and talk about what could happen if we went too early on that particular one. So elevating voices is really important to me, whether it's my own or other women that I'm working with.
And I think that's great that you were aware that she wasn't being heard and taking that moment to let her shine, because it's hard for a lot of people to be heard, and that's great that you did that. So wonderful. So moments of courage can build long-term confidence and success. So Tyler, maybe we'll start with you on this one. Can you think of some moments that you built that long-term confidence and success?
Yeah, I mean, on the whole, I think my answer to this question is just that hard work pays off. You know, keep working hard at it, keep showing up and doing the things that you're scared of until it pays off. You know, go after the project that you think you might not be able to do, and rally your team to be on board and do the hard work and put out a good outcome. At the end of each day, you know, sometimes when I'm doing triage on my to-do list, as long as I worked hard the whole day and did what I could, I feel like I'm ending the day on a courageous note. So I would say, you know, be patient with yourself and let it take the time every day, do those small moments. I think, you know, lately I've been hearing things about 1% better. You know, yesterday, if you feel like you let yourself be dismissed, or there was another woman in the room you didn't speak up for, like, that's okay, let it go, be 1% better today, and, you know, give yourself a little pep talk to be courageous and powerful moving forward. To try to give you an example of, I guess, a specific moment, this year in particular, my practice area, we've had some big wins with some new clients right here at home in Michigan. We're really proud to get to work with, and that took a couple years of networking and building trust. And God, it may seem silly, but networking events, that might be where you have to be the most courageous, right? I like to really rip off the Band-Aid and go to most things alone. And it can be really draining afterwards. But just, you know, keep pushing yourself and let those little moments, maybe 1% a day, build over time to feeling like you're courageous in your career and in your personal life too.
I love that. I think we'll all remember that, because that's an easy goal, and that's something we can all strive for. I love that. So Katie, do you have something with overcoming a significant challenge?
Yeah, I would say I think courage and confidence, I think they really are interchangeable. And honestly, I look at it as like a muscle. It's a muscle that you have to practice, you have to build in order to have that confidence and that courage to kind of take you to the next level. One key thing that I think is really important is getting feedback from folks. And like, I'll be honest with this group, it's not always fun to sit and hear how maybe you fell short in a presentation. But I think having somebody who has your back means that they're going to also tell you the truth when the time comes, because that's only going to help you improve. And then when I hear sometimes that feedback, I want to quickly dismiss it. That's my go-to, is dismiss it. Oh, that's not real. But I have to sit and think and kind of sit in it for a while and really try to think about how I can improve down the road. So if you don't have somebody like that, let me know. I would love to, especially if I work with you on a regular basis, I would love to be that person. But I guarantee somebody within your organization will have your back and will also provide you that feedback, good, bad, and maybe sometimes a little ugly.
Yeah, that's not always fun to hear, but yes, it does make us all grow, right?
Yes, exactly.
I'm gonna go to you next.
Sure. I think confident, like long-term success, you get to look back at your challenging times and say, oh, I got through that. I can get through this. Maybe I've seen a meme that says you've survived 100% of your bad days. And that's true, right? Like even if you fail, you don't actually fail because hopefully you learn a lesson from it. And so even so on your best days, when you've had past successes and you look back, you can celebrate like, oh, I trusted my instincts, I followed the plan, and I succeeded. Well, when you didn't succeed, you also get to look back and build on what could I have done better. You know, I tell my staff often, and sometimes I have to tell myself, give other people grace, but give yourself grace, right? Like, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. You can do good, and maybe it's not perfect, but you did the job and you did it well. And so, and build off of that, right? Next time, do it better. I mean, Tyler's point about 1% every day is great. And also that feedback that Katie mentioned is also good. I work with a lot of stakeholders. Some of them are of the same party of me, some of them aren't. And I think hearing their perspectives on an issue is really helpful. Sometimes you do want to dismiss it like this is unfair, but there's value in that, right? There is value in hearing the things that from someone else's perspective of what you could have done better, and it helps you maybe not make those same mistakes. So I do think about it often as like, you know, I've survived all the bad times. This might be rough, but we'll get through it and we'll make it better next time.
Perfect. Kind of leads us into the next question with, how do you encourage others, particularly women, to embrace failure as a stepping stone to success? So when you think about failure, you know that you realize it's either you have to turn the page, you have to do a new plan, or maybe you just have to scrap it and start over altogether, right? When you think about something that's failure. So Katie, with this question, how do you find with failure? How do you succeed or turn that around?
Yeah, and I'll be frank, I try to not look at things as a failure. I think what I do is I think it means there was an issue with maybe your process or an issue with your strategy. Maybe there's a better way that you can improve those pieces or improve yourself as you showed up to that particular presentation or meeting. So I really try to not look at something as an outright failure. I look at it as an opportunity to get better for the next time. And recently, actually, a couple of years ago, I had a situation where my team, we went through a reorg, and I had a group of my team members go to a different organization within the company. I'll be honest with everybody on this group, on this Zoom call, I looked at it as an absolute failure on my leadership. For 2 days, I kind of wallowed in pity. I looked at myself and I said, what did I do wrong? Like, how did I not show that I should have this organization underneath and on my team? And it really took a couple of days for me to do that. I think it's always important that you can, feel your feelings, but it really took a couple of days for me to realize like I had really good opportunities with the team that I still had. And how can I make that better? How can I elevate what we were doing in the earned media space? And so that's what I did. I jumped in, and I will say a year later, it's been going really, really well. So.
What would you like to talk about? Any failures? I mean, and you're right. I don't think we look at it as failures. Missed opportunity, maybe something didn't go exactly as planned. And, I don't think anybody fully fails. Like we all, try to just do better the next time. So.
Yeah, I would say when I'm giving feedback, especially to my female coworkers, I kind of sandwich it. So I don't know if she's signed out or not. She'll know it's her if she is. But so for example, I have an amazing analyst on my team. Like she can build her own model. She can replicate someone else's, it's a past employee she never knew. She can get into the nitty-gritty and update that analysis for a client with confidence. But in a draft, the writing wasn't there. And so, as a team, our process, folks were doubting the numbers because they couldn't understand the writing. And so instead of going to her and saying, these are the things that are wrong, I reminded her of how great her analysis is and how accurate and precise I know it is. And said, you have to push yourself to do the writing side so your coworkers and your audience will trust your numbers the way I do. a little bit different on it. So we do project by projects here at Anderson Economic Group. And you can't, a single one can't go because that's the whole world for the client, you know, potentially that year and a quarter or something. And, you know, there was one moment, maybe a month ago, where somebody could have said something was failing. But with my team, I went back to the initial plan of work and we realized we really did do what we set out to do. It's just that by completion, someone with a new perspective was added in. And so in good faith, we sat down and said, how can we help them feel like their perspective has been heard, even though it wasn't in the original plan of work, so that everybody can feel more successful about this. And so, you know, kind of like Katie mentioned, sometimes you have to sort of pivot and see where you can go instead of saying it's a failure, but also kind of acknowledge where you didn't meet someone's mark. Then I guess just as a side note, yeah, when someone leaves your team, it can feel like a really personal blow. We could probably do a separate webinar just on that.
We could, you're right, absolutely. Eli, I bet you have some stories with this.
Absolutely. I often, early on in politics, we were in the minority, and I really learned to redefine success, right? Like I try to find a win in everything, even no matter how big or small. When I worked in the governor's office early on, I think after the first year, the governor gave the staff journals for us to, like at Christmas time or something. She gave us journals and said we should write down 3 things that we're grateful for every day, or 3 things that went well. And starting your day or ending your day with that can even switch your perspective. So I started years ago, maybe not writing it down, but just trying to find the win, or again, find the lesson. I had a situation about 10 years ago, I had a difficult boss, and I did not handle it well. But it taught me so many things about how to handle bad situations. And it's changed. I mean, since then, I don't handle difficult situations in that way, right? Like I learned a lesson. So when I talk to my staff that's maybe elevating to leadership, I recommend to them, I said, think about every boss that you've had and what you've learned from them. Even if you've learned how not to be like them, right? Like that's a lesson. There is a lesson in everything, and we can find tiny positives, even on the worst day, something good happened. And as you can tell, I'm a person that looks at, you know, some people says glass half full, some people say glass half empty. I have a friend that used to say, either way, I've quenched my thirst, right? Like either way, I had a little bit to drink, and so I can keep going. And that has stuck with me for quite a while. To think about, even whether it's half empty or half full, you're less thirsty than you were before.
And we do learn from everybody. Sometimes it may frustrate you, but we do take takeaways from that. It might be what not to do, right? But that's important too, because we all can learn and grow. So I appreciate that. So let's look at, how do you push through moments of self-doubt, like imposter phenomenon, we call it, right? Which you can sometimes stifle courage. So Tyler, I know this one's kind of near and dear to you. So let's start with you on the imposter phenomenon.
Imposter phenomenon is very real. I think I experienced it a few times before I heard the label, and I was like, oh, that. And I think that's, again, going back to creating a habit of a really positive inner dialogue, and maybe doing that for those around you as well. And if you're approaching something and feeling like for some reason you're not worthy or you shouldn't get credit, tally it up for yourself. Go back as far as you need to and write down or mentally list out your educational successes and your professional successes and all the work accomplishments and professional networking and successes that you've done over the years that led to that opportunity that you're facing right now, and remind yourself of why you were put in this position and why you are not an imposter, why you earned your place, you've done the work, you have the skills, you have the knowledge, you are the right fit, you can do it. And I think once you do that a few times and get over that hump a handful of times, it will go away. You can completely get rid of it. You just have to really kind of discipline yourself to start that new habit. In my experience, I know it's different for everyone, but I think men, especially a few men I've worked with over the last few decades, they always do this. They're pretty good at tailing up what they have done. And women, we tend to be a little bit more humble. And so if you've never experienced this, like start paying attention a little bit more. In meetings, you have male coworkers that are really good about kind of bragging about what they already accomplished that week or that month or that year. Do that too, or do it for your other female coworkers who you think might not realize that they're killing it lately. And you can kind of start that culture too if you're having a hard time finding it for yourself. Do that for other women, and then they'll be encouraged to do that back for you.
You don't need to stop and remember. It's okay to compliment somebody, or it's not taking away from your ability, but everybody can use that encouragement. That's great. So Shaquila, what do you have on the imposter?
Sure. I have suffered from this, but no more acutely. If I can take a little bit of time, I'm going to tell a quick story. When I was working newly for the lieutenant governor, I'd be on these senior staff calls, and like the resumes of these people were intimidating, right? I had a Yale trained lawyer. I had an Oxford grad. I had the CFO of a, Fortune 200 or 400 company or whatever. And then it was me. I mean, there were a few other people, but then it's me. I went to a regular state school. You can see my Oakland University in the background proudly displayed. And I'd worked for a couple of small nonprofits, and I'd worked for the legislature. And I was very quiet in these meetings or in these calls. And because I didn't feel like I measured up to the resumes. Another guy had been budget director for the state treasurer, lawyer for, all these companies. And I was like, why I can't talk in this room because I don't measure up to these people. But the thing I realized, and it took a while. It took a solid 15-18 months of being in this job. And there were times when the governor herself would say, Shaquila, what do you think? And that, I wouldn't talk until she said something, or her chief of staff, Joanne, would call me out and say, Shaquila, we can tell you're thinking something. What do you think? And I would still be very nervous to speak. But I realized I brought a skill to the room that no one else had. I had negotiated things, even in the super minority, because at one time the Senate Democrats had 11 members to a 27 member Senate. I had negotiated deals, and I had been a part of large scale conversations where I was able to get bipartisan wins, even in the super minority. And there was not anyone in the room who had that exact experience. I had relationships in the legislature, and so I started to do little side projects, right? Like I would accomplish a thing, and eventually my confidence grew, and the governor asked me to lead on her economic development policy, which led to $1 billion investment by the state. It led to, like the largest investment from GM coming to Michigan, and a number of other wins. But I realized that, and this is a thing that I carry with me, and I'd like to say to everyone, you belong in the rooms you are in. It is not a mistake. It's not a mistake, and they're not going to wake up one day and realize that they've messed up by hiring you. You belong there, and you are valuable, and you bring something to the conversation. Even if you think everyone in the room knows it, it's okay to say it out loud, because I guarantee you someone does not know it. I would assume that everyone was starting where I was or beyond me, and they weren't. They didn't know the legislature. They didn't know the ins and outs. They didn't have the relationships. So you belong in every room that you are in, and it's not a mistake that you're there. And so that's what I often think about, because I still get those attacks where it's like, oh no, I'm saying something ridiculous. You're not. Somebody else is thinking it. So that's thank you for a little bit of privilege to go into that. But it was really a reaffirming, and it was a life-changing experience, honestly, that I grew out of this imposter syndrome, because now I realize that I do belong and I bring value, and I'm in the right place at the right time.
Glad to hear that. I think that's important, and realizing that you have a voice, it's okay for you to be heard, and I love that. So Katie, I'll let you go ahead and touch on that as well.
Yeah, I think I struggle with this honestly a lot. And it's something that I'm working on, very similar to Shaquila. I work in the corporate setting, so I work with a lot of folks that, you know, went to Harvard, have MBAs. And I look at my background and my degree as just a bachelor's from a small school. I say that to myself a lot, like, oh, you wouldn't know because you don't have this MBA, you don't have this advanced degree. And so I think it is really important to remind yourself of, like, what are you really good at? What value do you bring to that room, to that company, to that organization? And how do you lean in on those types of things? Like, I know I have self-awareness. I know I'm a hard worker. I know I'll speak up. Like, how do I lean into that and try to push well, I don't have an MBA, so therefore I shouldn't really speak. But yeah, very similar to Shaquila.
Yeah, and I think it's funny with the college degree, like, really, what does that mean? And, you know, you're in there, and the reason you're there, it doesn't matter what that is. So
Yeah.
that's great. Hey, we did get a question, so I'm gonna probably throw you guys off, but anybody can answer this. Does anyone have an issue with being empowered at home? The person I am with my spouse is totally different than my confident boss lady persona I am at work. I recognize this, and I'm trying to daily change this. Any suggestions on how to handle conversations out of the office that don't recognize us as a strong, equal individual? I mean, you want to tackle that?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm fortunate. I guess I don't really feel anything negative about it at home, but I totally get that, how you're like different at home than you are at work, especially if you have children. You know, you get to be a nurturing mother, but you know, like Shaquila and Katie talked about, when you're at the table with people that impress you, like, go ahead and go brag about it. Like, maybe it's professional to do it on LinkedIn, but the biggest thing I was going to add on is go back home and brag about it and let your family know what a big deal you are. Like, resonate in it a little bit and help them understand, like, kind of what your day entailed and kind of what you accomplished. It's really amazing to watch your kids be so impressed, you know, if you happen to be on the news for something, like, share it with your family and let them see. I would say also, you know, if you don't have this, you've got to grab onto it through Athena or build it up, take the lead on the culture in your company. But, you know, at AG, we've had the privilege of working with URC for 17 years now. That's the combination of MSU, Wayne State, and U of M. And the very first time we did our annual project with them was my first year here. So over 17 years, and actually the only person now in the world who's gotten to be on their annual project every single year. So, you know, recently we started working with Oakland University, which I see the shout outs from Shaquila, with Johns Hopkins University. And when we were diving into those projects, and I was a little bit intimidated, my current boss actually reminded me, like, you're actually the only person who's done this, like, as long and as consistently. And so, you know, brag at home a little bit, and maybe your family members or your girlfriends, you know, maybe call someone to brag. They'll start to remind you too, like, hey, you've done this a lot, like, you belong at that table. And I think you could do the same thing at home to start maybe helping your spouse understand maybe the facets of your personality, and maybe you'd like to have the opportunity to be a little bit more of a leader at home too, with the same level of respect you have at the office.
That's great. I appreciate you taking the time to answer that question. So in a traditionally male-dominated industries, right, and you guys have probably all worked in a lot of those, how does courage manifest differently for women leaders compared to their male counterparts? Katie, I'll let you start that one.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I've worked in politics, which at the time was very male dominated, and I work in the corporate setting, which is for a utility even. And it is, we're working to improve, but it is still male dominated. And I would say, I think what I take from this question is I feel like women have a higher level of scrutiny than men do. So whether it is how we show up in a meeting, how we look, even what we're wearing that particular day, that to me is something that like we are held to a different standard than maybe our male colleagues. And I can think very early on in my career, I had just started with a job and it was in state government. I was not making that much money. I did not I wasn't able to afford like a full piece suit, like, you know, a jacket with pants. And I remember one of my male bosses pulling me aside and saying like, oh, you really don't look the part, because I wasn't matching. I still was very dressed appropriately. I had cardigans and sweaters, but I might not have had a blazer on, or it might not have been matching. And so like in that moment for me, courage was knowing I needed a job, knowing even though I wasn't getting paid that much, I still needed that salary, and just sitting back, taking the information and not speaking up against that particular leader. And I'll never forget it. It was something that stuck with me. And I really take that to heart now moving forward of like, how do I show up? And maybe like, we don't need to constantly be talking about what people are wearing all the time.
Great. Sheila, what do you have on this one?
Sure. I very much show up as myself. Obviously, my name is Shaquila. People mispronounce my name sometimes on purpose. I very early on in my career, I thought about when I started in politics, shortening my name to make it more palatable. And a woman who worked in HR at the time, a woman of color, a Hispanic woman, she asked me, did I go by, I was going to shorten it to Shay. Shay Myers sounded really easy. No one could screw that up. And she asked me, do you go by Shay? And I said, no. And she was like, well, don't shorten your name for anyone. You know, people learn how to say these very, you know, ethnic last names, Polish, whatever. They can say Shaquila. They can say Shaquila. I didn't wear, early on in politics, I stopped wearing hoop earrings because I was like, it's too Black. It's, you know, but there's no hiding that I'm a Black woman in politics. And so a few years ago, a friend of mine was running for city clerk, and it was in a city that had never elected a Black woman to city clerk. And I told her, I said, you got to ditch the hoop earrings. It doesn't send the right message. And she was like, no, it's who I am. I always wear hoop earrings. And as you notice, I have on hoop earrings. That was a lesson for me. She got elected and became the first Black woman elected in that municipality as city clerk. And I had mainly always stuck very true to myself, except for the earrings. And I tried to tone down how I dressed and not wear, you know, bright colors or whatever. I love Black, but whatever, sometimes you feel like a color. And I really started to lean into, this job is so hard. There are moments where you deal with the sexism. And on top of that, though, I as one of the few, when I started in politics, there were very few Black women. And so on top of that, I had to deal with the racism, and whether it's microaggressions or not, right? Someone that is looking at my name and calls me Shaniqua, because that still happens, right? And there's no me, qua, or I mean, whatever. Like, even if you say Shaquila, it's still not Shaniqua, but they try to make it as whatever. But I very much started to realize that I could either do this job well, or I could pretend to be someone else. And I wanted to do the job well. So showing up as myself, and you know, I like to look dressed well, even if my clothes are, you know, you can't, you know, you're in politics, so you can't afford whatever. But I like to look put together, but I like to do it in my own way. And to me, it makes it easier to do the hard thing when I feel comfortable being me. And so yeah.
I love it. So Tyler, you're gonna kind of get feedback. So I did get a question that will go along with this. So how do you take credit for the work you've done when your male superiors keep taking credit for all of your positive work? Would you ignore it and take it as a compliment that they think that they think so highly of your work? You know, do you have any advice? You can kind of tie these together however you feel.
Sure, yeah, I think that's a double-edged sword. So if you are a very new or junior employee in your role, you have to understand and take a step back and think, you know, could you have done all of this work on your own? Could you have brought in the client, negotiated the deal, come up with the plan of work and the approach to all of that? If the answer is no, then that's not all your work. And so you may have to be humble and patient and keep working hard and understand that you're contributing to a team. I think, you know, depending on how your deliverable is presented, and everybody's in different fields and different types of careers, maybe it's appropriate that you need some kind of acknowledgement of the authors or listing of the team somewhere in the deliverable so your name can be acknowledged. And then, you know, just kind of respect the process of when you work your way up until your name is on the front cover. I know when I was a junior employee, this really did bother me. There's so many publications that I put my blood, sweat, and tears into that my name is not on. And now that I'm in the leadership role, I do it differently. Even though I am the one doing all the parts of the project to bring the client in and craft what we're going to do and balance the budget and all that stuff, I don't tend to put my name on the cover because I don't want the folks I'm supervising to feel like I did 15 years ago. I put everybody in alphabetical order in the back in the about section. And so, you know, this might not be the answer you're really hoping for to get that quick gratitude, but, you know, if you can have the perseverance to, to change it over time, and take those little steps, I think you can get there. I do want to just give a very short answer to the previous question though, about like in male dominated industries. I totally agree with everything Shaquila and Katie said. I used to think hoops were professional for the workplace too. I've recently gotten over it. But I think just on simple things, like they said, we have to have the courage to not react to those comments, to show we're not going to accept weird comments or inappropriate comments. If you can keep that kind of stone face, if you can shut it down, you know, a handful of times early on in your career, it does get better. You have to do it with grace and a level head and ensure you're taking it seriously. And that's kind of the environment we're in here.
I love it. So time is going so fast, I can't believe it, but I'm gonna give you each a minute because we're almost out of time, which is crazy. But I want you to, the last couple of questions talking about mentoring and the advice you have for women looking to take courageous steps in their career. So if each of you will touch on kind of your final thoughts so we can get done on time today. So Katie, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So I think of when I mentor folks, or if I'm honestly getting mentored, I look at knowing your strengths and weaknesses. I love diving into Strengths Finder or DISC assessment. Know what you're good at, and then know what you're bad at. Lean into both of those. For myself, I am strong in influencing, woo, communication, maximizer, all of that stuff. That's where I really lean. Where I'm really bad at is that long-term strategic planning, maybe the bringing everybody together for a brainstorm. That's where I am bad at. And so I try to look at that as like, well, who do I need to have within my organization, within my team that is good at that can help balance me out. So I think knowing your strengths, it's really easy to take some of those tests on the internet, and I would encourage everybody to do that, because whether or not you're leading a team, that really helps in how you interact with coworkers as well. So I would lean into that. And then my last kind of message is you never know. And I do encourage folks. I was told when I left politics and came to an energy provider that I was going to be bored after a month. And in March of 2025, that will have been 8 years ago. And I can honestly tell everybody I have not been bored one single day at Consumers Energy. And I really have leaned in. So you never know. take that leap if you're able, if you have, the opportunity to do so, take that leap because it really could set you up for success.
You want to give your final thoughts there?
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. I would say, listen to yourself and listen to others. I'm female coworkers. I try to do this, for my female coworkers, those I've supervised, or maybe I've had the privilege to mentor a little bit. Listen to what they're saying, tally up what they need to hear sometimes, tally up what you need to hear, and really, really practice that inner dialogue and help other folks practice that inner dialogue. And if it's really, really unnatural to you, like write down a mantra for yourself and just repeat it in your head until it becomes a habit. I've definitely done that before for myself. I won't share some of the mantras because they're just too personal really, but they become a habit and then you can repeat them. And I would say also, don't confuse like your need for courage with greed. Maybe no one deals with that, but maybe you're dealing with that and you're really focused on like the dollar amount of compensation or something like that. Yes, it's very important to be compensated fairly, but think about your overall productivity, think about your long-term goals, think about your work ethic and what you're contributing, and try to balance those in your efforts to courageousness before you think about the compensation part. But again, don't let yourself be compensated unfairly.
And with you on this.
Sure. Okay. Couple of things. I'll try to be brief. Get a mentor that is where you think you want to be. And then get a couple of other mentors maybe that are different than you. I appreciate all the advice and perspective that I have gotten from Black women, from Republican women, from men. That variety has kind of helped me shape my own lane. And the second thing is, think about where you want to go and what skill set you need to get there. When I was applying for jobs for years, when I worked on central staff, and I never got any of them. And I really stepped back and I thought about, what is it about me that isn't working? And I started to build skill sets. I started to work on writing better. And then I worked on, building my policy chops. And then I realized I wasn't good at public speaking. Like, public speaking made me very nervous. And so I set a goal to start doing panels and keynotes. And as you see, I'm still doing them, but I've actually gotten more comfortable with speaking, and that helps me now communicate to my staffs better. And so really think about, sometimes people say, oh, what do you want to do? Like, did you plan to be chief of staff? I didn't. I really worked on a skill set and improving who I was and the job that I was currently doing. And all the rest of this kind of just happened, right? Like, focus on doing the job that you have, because I think that opens up opportunities for the jobs you want in the future. So those are my three main things, like mentorship, improve your skill set, and do your current job well, because that opens opportunities for future jobs, because people see you doing that well. And then you never know who's watching and who's like, I'd really like someone like that on my team.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, we are out of time, but ladies, I know we could go on and on about this. Thank you so much for all your insight. You gave us a lot to think about and takeaways. So Becky, I am going to send it back to you because I know we went a little over. So thank you, everybody, and back to Becky.
Thank you so much. This was an amazing conversation, and I know each and every one of you, and I just love seeing all of you together, having this conversation, sharing your backgrounds, and just for everyone, right? We had a great group today, great chat box, great Q&A, and I just truly cannot thank all of our speakers and our moderator, Carrie, enough. It was a great way to kick off your Wednesday, and we've learned a lot here today, but we look forward to offering more of these opportunities in the future. Again, these women today really shared parts of themselves that challenged them. They were vulnerable, and they gave us many things to think about as we continue our day, our week, month, and the remainder of 2024 and beyond. So remember, you belong in the rooms you're in. Love that. Ask for feedback. go into the danger with an open mind. And I think, one that really stuck out to me was personal and professional growth is different, and it's okay to be okay with that. Members, I hope you took notes and found our toolkit supportive for your reflection now and later when we come back to this conversation for a quiet moment. We'll be pulling these notes out later in our online community conversations. But also, I'm just blown away by the amount of support in Michigan Athena this morning. We have so many new members that joined today and welcome to our community after this morning's conversation. And we'll have tumblers to give away too, so I'm excited for that. It's not too late to join and become part of our growing community and build these growth opportunities alongside of us. So we are just eternally grateful for our sponsors here in the last webinar of our series in 2024. So let's start by thanking our generous friends again at Consumers Energy. And special thank you to Katie and Kathy for speaking and supporting us today. Also Lake Trust for your amazing support over the years and for Brandolin's insightful reminders of leadership and courage this morning. Our platinum sponsor for this year, again, is Philip Morris International. Amerisure and Hastings Insurance for their support over the years and especially this year. And UM, for also being a great sponsor. And we have many new members from their organization as well. So welcome. Last but certainly not least, our incredible bronze sponsors are West Shore Bank and Mott Community College. And on behalf of our sponsors and future program, please check for the next slide here is our survey link. It allows us to collect thoughts, preferences, and ideas for future programming from you, but it also allows us to share our feedback with our sponsors and continue to serve you in the best way possible. You'll receive an email after the event with a link to the survey, but also a link to the webinar recording. It will be live on our website, so you can refer back to the conversation that we had today. But thank you all for your enthusiasm, your amazing questions, and continued support. I look forward to seeing you all in our online community, in our networking events, and our upcoming webinars in 2025. As always, we're so grateful to have you for your participation today. Make it an amazing Wednesday and go into the last few days of this week fierce and empowered. Thank you.